What is up, Steelers Nation? Thank you so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. I'm Noah Strackbine. Before I introduce you to my boy here on the right, I just want to take a minute, call to action. As we've been doing for the last 2 weeks, make sure to go subscribe to our new YouTube page. The link is in the pinned comment below. When we hit 1,000 subscribers, I think we're at like 750 right now. We're giving away a signed Mean Joe green jersey on top of a bunch of other giveaways. We appreciate the support, so make sure to go subscribe there. As always, find us on youtube.com/allsteelerstalk. Check us out anywhere you get your podcasts. Now, let me introduce you to my main man, Stephen Thompson, a.k.a. the last believer in Justin Fields. When everyone said we were crazy, when everybody said it will never happen, the Pittsburgh Steelers will not trade for Justin Fields, even I hit a point where I was like, I do not believe this is going to happen anymore. Maybe I just dreamt too big. Who knows? Stephen Thompson did not. He never gave up hope. He even at one point said, I think they're going to land him for much less than we believe that he's going to go for. And, well, he was spot on. Stephen, I hope you enjoyed your weekend. I hope you basked in all the glory. And as I ask every day, how you feeling, my friend?
I'm feeling good. I cannot lie to you. That was pretty sweet to have that notification pop up on my phone and to be vindicated a little bit.
Yes.
It's just funny because I mean you were in on it from the jump, and we were in on it when the price tag was much more expensive than it ended up being for the Steelers. So the idea that they got it all the way down to just a 6th-round pick, a conditional 6th-round pick for next year,
Yes.
and that we got to be right about it too felt pretty good.
It was a good moment in the group chat. I'm not gonna act like it was a good day. It was a good night. It was a good day. The next day, I was a bit caught off guard. I was golfing. I figured, all right, you know what? Like they've already done all the craziness. The craziness has come. I literally hit the last hole, putted in, looked at my phone, and there it is, like 6 text messages from you guys. And the first one I see was, I called it, all caps, and I was like, I know exactly what this is. I don't even know what's going on. I know exactly what's happening right now. Wild moment. We really were the last believers, and it feels good to not only, to be right, cool, awesome, just to kind of know that the Pittsburgh Steelers are capable of stuff like this is just different. You talk about last year and the year before that, and Kevin Colbert, and I've been covering this team for what seems like a long time already, and I know it's not in comparison to some of those guys that cover this team, but this is the first year where I sit around and I really think anything could happen. And to have that mindset and to be able to predict things and say things like the Pittsburgh Steelers could get better if they do this, and there be an actual possibility of that happening, I mean, it feels very good. Did you in a million years think that the Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback room, let's just go back a month, 2 months, whatever, would consist of Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, and no Kenny Pickett as we approach just week 2 of free agency?
Yeah, not at all. I was fully prepared for it to be, Kenny Pickett, maybe Mason Rudolph, but more likely, a Jacoby Brissett and a draft pick.
Yep.
That's what I was getting geared up for. This is completely different. This is a whole new era. It is a whole new era for the Steelers. It is a whole new era of it's a different attitude. It's a different group of players. Obviously, it's just a completely different look for a franchise that had really built their identity around, we have one way of doing things. We have one way of operating, and they've completely bucked that. And they are a different team in a different era, showing a new kind of urgency to win games and to win big.
I agree. It's not your father's Pittsburgh Steelers. I've been saying that all weekend. Wild. As for what has happened, just to give everybody a little bit of a rundown, because it was a wild weekend, Friday, and it started after, like, Omar Khan, I'm telling you, this guy I don't think he clocks into work until 5 p.m. Like, I don't think he shows up at the facility until everybody else goes home, and then he goes, all right, let's work some magic here. It's just him in, like, a dark room. Nobody else is in the building, and he's just like, all right, let's do some stuff here. For those of you who have not been paying attention, the Pittsburgh Steelers over the last 3 days have traded Kenny Pickett to the Philadelphia Eagles. They traded Kenny Pickett and a 4th-round pick 121, to the Philadelphia Eagles in exchange for pick 98, a 3rd-round pick, and 2 6th-round picks next season. The next day, they traded for Justin Fields, sending a conditional 2025 sixth round pick in exchange for the quarterback. That sixth round pick will become a fourth round pick, if Justin Fields plays 51% of the Steelers' offensive snaps in 2024. Chances of that happening we'll dive into in a minute, but as of right now, seem very slim. They signed wide receiver Van Jefferson, and then as late as yesterday, scheduled a free agency visit with wide receiver Mike Williams, former Los Angeles Chargers. On top of that, they restructured cornerback Dante Jackson's deal, changing his $10.5 million salary into a $4 million salary and a $6 million salary, and a $4.75 million signing bonus, adding roughly $4.5 million to their salary cap. As they sit here right now, they have an estimated approximate $15.1 million in available spending money. And that comes after we started this. Last week, we started free agency, and they were at $28 million. They have signed Russell Wilson, added Justin Fields, traded for a corner, signed Patrick Queen, signed Deshaun Elliott, added a punter, re-signed 3 of their guys, and are bringing signed Van Jefferson, and they've spent $13 million. Insanity. I think just for a moment here before we dive into Justin Fields, his role, there's rumors about Russell Wilson moving forward, and then obviously Mike Williams. I think we got to give a quick shout out to Omar Khan and what he's done. Your thoughts on just week 1, man? You graded them with an A on Friday. I graded them with a B+. That skyrocketed into an A+ in about 10 seconds. Where are you standing with these guys today? What's your praise for Omar Khan?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what moves the Steelers have made this offseason that I don't think were good. You can debate about the Deontay trade, but even that seemed like it was a move that they had to make, a move that they were forced into. You can say that there are certain places where maybe they missed on a guy or something, and I think those opportunities are slim. Like, it is a near perfect offseason, or near as perfect as you can get if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers. They haven't addressed every hole just yet, but again, we just finished week 1. We're starting week 2, and they have already addressed a ton of holes. They've gotten good value for everyone that they've picked up, and there's still a long way to go and a lot of money left to spend. That's the crazy thing. You still have $15 million to throw around, and that's before you restructure any big contracts or anything like that. There could be still more money left for them to throw around this offseason.
100%. They typically bring in $10 million into the season. You need about $10 million to sign all your draft picks, and they have 15 right now. They could restructure Minka. They could restructure Alex Highsmith. They could restructure TJ Watt. They could extend Cam Hayward. All that adds about anywhere from $30+ million. So they're sitting very pretty. I would imagine all $15 million of this dollars gets spent before the end of free agency. Wild times. Let's dive into the biggest moves. The quarterback, Justin Fields, what it means for the Pittsburgh Steelers, his role moving forward. According to multiple reports, the Pittsburgh Steelers are viewing Justin Fields as a backup. Russell Wilson is the starter. Albert Breer from Sports Illustrated, Jerry Dulac from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette all reported that Mike Tomlin has already had that conversation with Justin Fields and said that Justin is going to be the backup. Russ is going to be the starter. Is that a good move for you? Do you view that as a positive or a negative thing? And do you think there's any chance that changes throughout the course of training camp? Is the door even a little bit open for Justin Fields to make this a competition?
Well, I don't think in training camp. I think Russ is kind of you can pencil in Russ as your week 1 starter and not feel like you have to change it at all. I think if Fields does end up pushing for the starting job, it would have to come during the regular season. I think Russ would have to struggle quite a bit for them to consider benching him. And quite honestly, I don't really expect that to happen. I think Russ is going to play pretty well if I had to guess about it right now. So I think there is a chance that Fields could push for a starting job, make it a competition, end up starting a few games, maybe here or there. But like you said, that 51% snap threshold, if that's what we're using it, if that's, a bar that we're using to judge, whether or not Fields is a major part of this offense moving forward, I don't think he's going to reach there. I don't think he's going to play that much. I think Wilson's going to take the vast majority of the snaps. think he's going to do decently well in this offense. And I think Fields, I think he's really talented, and I think he could be a really good starter for another team at another time. But right now, I think this is Russell Wilson's show until he proves otherwise.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I look at it, and you make a lot of good points. I think when it comes to the Justin Fields side of things, I think this helps him. I think to have a mentor like Russell Wilson. I mean, the stories popped up all over the place that once upon a time, Justin Fields said that he styles his play after Russell Wilson. So perfect mentor. I think that they're not going to pick up his 5th-year option, but I don't see them viewing Justin Fields as like a 1-year, this is never going to go any farther type of situation. Maybe Russ turns into a Super Bowl champion, and we'll dive into that in a second here. But I think that this is a perfect year for Justin Fields to learn and get the opportunity that he never got in Chicago. He's never had a reliable coaching staff. He's never had a consistent play caller. He's never had a good offensive line. He's barely had a reliable running game because everybody gets hurt every season. He's, up until last season, had terrible wide receiving cores. He's got good ones in Pittsburgh, and he's never had a mentor. He's never had the opportunity to sit on the bench and learn how to be an NFL quarterback. And yeah, you do pick things up, but it really helps to be able to sit down for a full season or 2 full seasons or whatever and learn from guys who have done this successfully. And Russell Wilson does this successfully. I think that it's the perfect fit for Justin Fields just because he now, every day in practice, he gets to work with George Pickens and Calvin Austin and possibly Mike Williams and Van Jefferson and, Pat Freiermuth and Connor Hayward. If he ever entered a game, he's got Najee Harris and Jalen Warren. He's got a good offensive line. He gets to learn from Arthur Smith. He gets to work with Mike Tomlin every single day and just learn how to be a professional. And then he gets to study Russell Wilson. Like, that's what the Pittsburgh Steelers want Justin Fields to do. I think it helps his career tremendously. And I don't think there should be any pressure. Like, if Justin Fields comes in here and balls out in free agency and like it's ridiculous, there's just no stopping this guy and Russell Wilson looks terrible, maybe then you make the move, I guess. But it's really hard to look bad in training camp, especially as a quarterback. Like, it's really hard to come in here and be like, oh man, I can't get sacked and there's no pressure and I could stand in this pocket all day long and the defense is the scout team defense, but I look really bad. Like, it's really tough to do that. So I don't think Russ is going to look worse than Justin Fields in training camp. I think he's going to look just fine. I think this is Russ's job. I think you're 100% spot on with that one. And then from Fields, I think you go from there. When it comes to long term, that's already being talked out. People are talking about Russell Wilson signing a long-term deal with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Jared Dulac tweeted it out during the Justin Fields trade stuff, saying that the Pittsburgh Steelers are expected to extend Russell Wilson or sign a longer-term deal at the end of the season. When you hear that, what is your? I think there's parts to this, but what are your initial thoughts when you hear that tweet?
That it's kind of a bold prediction for this point in this point in the calendar. If Russ plays well, I'd absolutely see it, but that's really what it's contingent on. It's a real simple and it's kind of obvious, but Russ has got to play well to earn a second contract and earn a second chance in Pittsburgh. That's not to say that I think he will play decently well this season. I have a lot of faith in him, but it's got to happen, right? Like, there's a reason they're signing it at the end of the season as opposed to when they first signed him. I think the Steelers want to see it too. So I think they'd like to be able to sign him long term. I think they would be happy if Wilson does work out and they can keep him for another year or two or more. But like I said, it's gotta actually happen on the field, because that's the other thing. If Wilson does play well, it's going to cost him some money to keep him in Pittsburgh. A veteran, if you're a quarterback who leads a team to the playoffs and makes a run in the playoffs, then you cost some money. And so the Steelers have to be ready to spend that. And I don't know if like I said, there's a reason they are saying they're going to do the report was that they're going to do this at the end of the season as opposed to right now.
I agree. I read that and I said, you have no idea if that's going to happen. Like, I get it that that's what somebody inside the building says, and maybe that's somewhat of a belief right now. But I think more so than not, it's just a publicity stunt. It's just this is the Steelers making it look good, making it look like they're all in on Russell Wilson, which they should be. They should be all in on Russell Wilson. That guy gives them an opportunity to win. He's a veteran, but I don't know what's going to happen. Nobody has any idea what's going to happen. Everybody a week ago, 2 weeks ago, was talking about, is Russell Wilson going to go to a new team and bring the last 2 years in Denver, or is he going to bring the first 8 years in Seattle? Who are you going to get out of Russell Wilson? And I think that's still a question mark. And I don't know that who you're going to get. And I think you have to wait to find that out. And if you do get the first 8 years of Russell Wilson and he leads you to a Super Bowl and you do all these crazy things, then you look at this and you say, well, okay, why would you not bring Russell Wilson back? But at the same time, how much is he going to cost? How much does it hurt your team? Omar Khan is that. That's the thing with Omar Khan. There's nothing here. Like, Omar Khan is all about, how do I win? How do I make this team better? He's not going to sign you because that's the right thing to do. Kevin Colbert would have signed you because that's the right thing to do. He would have, but we would have never been in this situation. It would have been Jacoby Brissett and Kenny Pickett, because it would have been somebody that wouldn't threaten Kenny Pickett, and there would have been no issues, and this would have been drama-free, and the Steelers would have stunk in 2024. But it's not where they are. Omar Khan's a different GM. I don't know. My thoughts were exactly what yours were. It's early. It's too early to think about something like that. I think there's a possibility that you see enough out of Justin Fields, even as a backup, that you could extend him. You don't have to pick up his fifth-year option, but that doesn't mean that you can't extend Justin Fields. It doesn't mean that you can't look at this. I mean, you have to remember, he wanted to come to Pittsburgh. There were other offers on the table, reportedly, and he chose the Pittsburgh Steelers. So you could look at that and say, okay, maybe you add another year or 2 years to Justin Fields' deal at the end of the season, and you do it for cheaper than his fifth-year option is going to be, and now you have a cheaper option who's 25, turning 26 years old. Russ did really well, but, he's not your guy. Maybe Justin Fields is your guy. So I think it's way too early. I think there's more of a possibility maybe that happens.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, you don't pick up, I don't know, maybe that's not true. I think you pick up Justin Fields for a reason. Like, I think you pick him up as insurance. I don't think this was just a flyer, and I don't think he was just there because, or that they picked him up just because he was there. Like, there was real interest in Justin Fields for a while. So I think they see Justin as a viable option moving forward if Russ doesn't work out, but Russ is plan A and Fields is plan B.
Yeah, agreed. But if Justin Fields doesn't play until he's 27 years old, that's still young for a quarterback. You still got plenty of time with them. If you could develop behind Russ for 2 years and you extend Russ for, like, you add one more season to Russell Wilson's deal and that's it, cool. But you're not signing a 37-year-old quarterback to a 5-year deal and saying, that's our guy, man. That's, at that point, you're getting yourself into a Denver Broncos situation, and Omar Khan's not going to do that. So I think it's almost just as realistic that the Pittsburgh Steelers keep Justin Fields around longer than Russell Wilson as it is that they extend Russell Wilson. It's just way too early in the process to have any idea how that goes down. What are your expectations for Russell Wilson? Like, I think that's a question that, you get tossed out there, and again, there's two sides to the coin. Are you going to get the first 8 years of Seattle? Or are you going to get right now? What are your expectations for this guy? Like, do you expect the Pittsburgh Steelers to be contenders, or do you just, I don't know, where do you sit?
I mean, I do. And I think if you get last year's Russell Wilson, then you can be a contender. If you get 3,000 yards, close to 3,100 yards, 26 touchdowns, and 8 picks, you can be a contender with that. I think you absolutely can. I don't think you'll get, the first 8 years of Seattle version of Russ. I don't think you'll get, a guy who was, an offensive player of the year candidate, an all-pro guy. Like, I don't know if you're going to get that. He might not even make a Pro Bowl, but I think he'd be good. I think he can be good enough. Like that second year in Denver, and especially the second half of it was pretty decent,
Yeah, not bad.
And I have to imagine I think he's walking into a better situation here in Pittsburgh than he was in Denver. Just from a weapons for standpoint, from a stability standpoint, from, a rest of the team standpoint, a roster building standpoint, this is a better situation. So I think that Wilson is set up for success. I think he can capably run an offense, and this is still going to be an offense that centers around the run game. So I think life will be somewhat easy on Russ, and that he'll be able to deliver in the bigger moments. In this AFC, you can't say, oh, he's going to lead him to a Super Bowl. That's just, if you're betting against Patrick Mahomes, it's probably a losing bet. But I think he can definitely improve their ceiling. I think they are a surefire playoff team at this point. And just how far they go in those playoffs, I'm not sure. But that's the question. It's not, oh, are they going to squeak into the playoffs? It's how far can they go in the playoffs at this point?
I agree. I agree. That's exactly where I stand. Is that Russell Wilson brings the ceiling, brings the floor to a playoff team, and the ceiling to, I don't know. We'll see what happens with Kansas City. We'll see how good Kansas City is this season. We'll see if Baltimore can win a couple of playoff games. But Russ is the type of dude that you want here. My expectations are high. I'm not a down on Russ type of guy. I'm not a down on Justin Fields type of guy. I'm not a down on this offense type of guy. I think right now the Pittsburgh Steelers have done so much. And then the best part about it, the most like quiet part about the whole situation is they've done all of this, and you're going to focus on players more than you're going to focus on anything else. But running the show is Arthur Smith, who, like, this is a guy. Like, this is a guy who's very well known around the NFL, who people have nothing but praise for. Who, I mean, like, it gets skewed sometimes. You know what I mean? If you went to a different organization, you'd have a lot better things to say about Mike Tomlin than if you went to a Pittsburgh Steelers fan and talked about Mike Tomlin. And I think that's how Arthur Smith is. If you talk to other teams who have worked with Arthur Smith or have heard about Arthur Smith, it's all great things to say. Whereas in Pittsburgh, it's like, okay, look at moving with a sense of caution here because you just don't know. I think that they put the perfect piece to lead the way, like a proven commodity of just like, hey, this is it. And then you don't have to worry about developing a quarterback. You got a quarterback. His name's Russell Wilson. He could develop himself. So I think they did that just perfectly. The rest of their moves this weekend, because they did not stop, and they're going to keep going, and we are nowhere near done. Tyler Boyd has seemingly drifted into the abyss. We don't know what happened with that. We don't know where the reports have gone. At one point, they were talking, and then Kansas City was involved. The Jets were involved. Well, Kansas City got Hollywood Brown. Tyler Boyd is still sitting around. Nobody has any idea what's going on with him. Is he going to Kansas City? Is he going to Pittsburgh? Who knows? We'll find out. The Steelers have scheduled a free agent visit with former Los Angeles Chargers wide receiver Mike Williams. Big name, a name everybody wanted. They've already signed Van Jefferson to a deal that we do not know the numbers on just yet. 1-year deal. Mike Williams comes in here, 29 years old, coming off an ACL injury, so a bit of a concern. I mean, you high on this guy? You think it's worth the signing, depending on what the money is, and you know, you think it's a deal that improves the Pittsburgh Steelers?
Yeah, I'll be honest. I'm not very high on Mike Williams. I can't see him. I'm betting against Mike Williams, to be quite honest with you. I just think between the injury history, he's getting up there in age. He's going to turn 30 this season. Maybe before the season starts. I'm not sure, but it's a bit of a gamble. And like you said, it really kind of depends all on the money. I'd take a flyer on him for a cheap contract, 1 year. But I'm not giving him a multi-year deal, and I'm not giving him north of, I don't even know how high I'd go. Maybe like $7 million. Like,
I was gonna say $7-8 million bucks.
Right. It's a big gamble for a guy like this who he has had good seasons. But there is a long injury history there going back to his college days that I'm just not sure, especially as he gets older. Like, that stuff isn't going to get better, you know? Like, you don't get healthier when you get past 30 years old.
Yep.
That just doesn't happen. But I think there's enough potential there. There's enough, I don't know, like there's enough of a history there of, you know, big playmaking, and he can be an explosive threat downfield to make it worth taking a flyer on and exploring. My only thing is, like, what role does he play in this offense, you know? Like, he's a big play threat, but, you know, isn't that George Pickens' job? You know, I guess, like, if you have George Pickens, do you need another guy who fits in the same kind of role as him? That would be my only question. I feel like if you're going after receivers, you got to look more at reliable slot guys. I guess you do need one more outside guy with Deontay gone, but I feel like they could look at that in the draft too. I think there are perhaps some better options out there as far as starting caliber guys go, guys that you could maybe be a little bit more sure of, or at least maybe have a higher ceiling, or could be more consistent than Mike Williams at 30 years old could be.
I agree. I look at it as, you sign Van Jefferson. What's Van Jefferson's role? Because if you bring in Mike Williams, you're still probably going to draft somebody, right? Like, you're not going to look at it and say, all right, 30-year-old Mike Williams, that's our guy. You know, that's it. That's what we need. Sounds good. You already have Calvin Austin. You're going to hope that Calvin Austin takes a step forward. Don't know what's going to happen there, but you're going to hope that he takes a step forward. So you want him to be involved. Maybe he's your slot guy. If you don't sign Tyler Boyd, maybe that's how you look at it. And maybe Mike Williams is your starter opposite of George Pickens, while you let a veteran veteran sit in front of a rookie. Maybe that's how you look at it. I don't know. I think it's setting themselves up for success right now without any holes when it comes to the NFL draft. But at the same time, like what was your priority? I think it brings into question what the priority was at wide receiver, because we looked at it and like a couple of days ago, we're talking about, you look at the NFL draft and you need an offensive tackle, you need a center, you need a wide receiver, you need a corner, you need a defensive tackle, and you barely have that many picks. What was the priority list? Are you going to avoid an offensive tackle because you have Dan Moore Jr.? Are you going to hope that a center's there? Who knows? I look at it now and say maybe that's center, or maybe that's wide receiver. Maybe they're cool with waiting until the 4th round on a wide receiver or the 3rd round on a wide receiver. And if that's the case, I'm not upset about that. I think you can find really good wide receivers in the 3rd and 4th round. I think it happens all the time. And you have a much better opportunity to find talented wide receivers in those 3rd, 4th rounds than you do at corner or, offensive tackle or even center. So if that's your thought here, totally fine. But it makes me curious what it indicates more than what it brings to the team. I think Mike Williams is, fine. If you're going to put him opposite of George Pickens and you're just going to say, all right, Russ, go deep. Sounds good. Have a good time. This is all you're going to do. Go balls, go balls, go balls. And then Calvin Austin is your like utility slot guy. Cool. I think that puts a lot of pressure on Calvin Austin, but hopefully he's up for the challenge. And I think it leaves you one. Your rookie has to be able to do everything, and I think that leaves a bit of a hole. Like, he's got to be able to play slot, and who knows if he's going to be able to.
Right. It puts a lot of pressure on a rookie who we don't know who it is, like you said.
Yeah.
And Calvin Austin, which we don't know what he is yet either. Yep. And we don't I don't even know what Calvin Austin's ceiling, what I would say Calvin Austin's ceiling would be. He
idea.
Could be, this great Swiss Army knife that can run jet sweeps and can catch the occasional deep ball, can be a bit of a possession receiver, throwing short and making yards after the catch. But, after his rookie year, he wasn't a huge part of the offense. I understand he's sitting behind some veterans and the quarterback play wasn't the greatest, but I think it's still a giant question mark. You're just leaning on two not very sure things. If you are leaning on Mike Williams and Calvin Austin to be starting wide receivers for, a Russell Wilson that you don't exactly know what you're going to get from him either. It's just a lot of question marks going into a pretty important season, which would not make me feel super comfortable.
Do you think if they sign Mike Williams that Tyler Boyd's off the board?
I would have to imagine, right? I mean, I guess it always depends on what the money is, but I mean, you're getting to the point where you almost have not too many wide receivers, but it just seems a little like, why do you need to sign Mike Williams if you get Tyler Boyd? And the other way around. Like, I don't think Tyler Boyd would be on the board if you get Mike Williams. I just think that would be not a great allocation of resources. If you're already going to invest some money in Mike Williams, I think you got to start looking at other positions as well to throw that money around, because you might have to start thinking about, signing a center, signing an offensive tackle. Because you're still leaving a hole open at wide receiver. And it's just, are we going to double dip in free agency on that position and leave the rest of it up to the NFL draft? That seems a little risky as well.
Yeah, to go into, I mean, they might go into the season with that. That's like a real possibility that they go into the season with a rookie center and a rookie right tackle, which, I mean, the upside to that moving forward is very promising. Right now, it's very concerning. Your rookie season to have two guys out there concerning. But I agree. I think Boyd comes off the table just because you're probably competing with them and you're going to have to offer him a bigger deal. I think you could get a smaller name, like a Hunter Renfrow. I think it's going to go for nothing. And I think you could possibly sign him for like $3 million and Mike Williams for like $7 million. And sounds good. Just because, unless Mike Williams is chasing the money, you're not going to Carolina. Like, it was him and the Jets. Like, the Jets, cool. I get the Jets thing. But I'm still going to Pittsburgh. Like, I'm definitely going to Pittsburgh over Carolina, and I still think I'm going to Pittsburgh over New York because, I mean, New York is a lot, and you're paying a lot of taxes. So I think that's, you're going to look at the financials to that side and the opportunity to both sides. I think Pittsburgh just outweighs both of them. If that's the move and you can get somebody super cheap at the slot, cool, I get it. but I do think that it's like a weird, like Van Jefferson made sense as the last wide receiver, you know, and Van Jefferson stinks. Like he is not, he's not a reliable wide receiver, but it made sense as your like replace Miles Boykin. Now
Yeah,
you're looking at it like he's going to
like
replace Miles Boykin, but like you're gonna have two Miles Boykin. Is Mike Williams your next? Is he your Calvin Austin now? Is he your Allen Rob? Like who is this guy? What is he going to do? I think it's a big question mark. I think it's a weird. It's cool. It's a good opportunity if the Pittsburgh Steelers are just saying screw it. We got money to spend. We're going to spend it. Okay, you can never have too much talent, but I think it doesn't make as much sense as I think it did like a couple days ago, or
yeah,
it did before the Van Jefferson signing. So I think where they stand now is a bit strange. I wouldn't rule either one of them. I think at some point this week it's just going to be boom headline: Pittsburgh Steelers signed so and so wide receiver. It's like, all right, cool, sounds good. Feels like they're last, and then a center, at some point. I don't know. Do you expect them to sign a center? You think that's going to happen this week?
the more I think about it, yeah, I do think they're more likely to sign a center.
Mm-hmm.
It just seems like the draft is getting too crowded, and it feels like guys are like shooting up too much. I think they're going to end up signing a center using these draft picks on corner or offensive tackle and going from there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they're more likely to sign a center than to draft one at this point.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes and no. I think that they're going to draft a center, but I do think that the priority. I think that they're going to sign one as well. I think they are, but I think
Really?
that's. I think
So
they'll
like
draft
where?
one.
Okay, so they're going to draft a center late, like they're or are
No,
they?
if I had to guess the Steelers draft order right now, it is like, and this is not like where they'll draft them, just list of priorities where it is. I would go, and it all depends on where the draft board falls and how
Yeah,
when
yeah.
players go, so on and so forth. I would go center, I would go offensive tackle, center, wide receiver. Nope. I'd go offensive tackle, center, corner, wide receiver, defensive tackle. Those would be my positions. And I think corner is a good one, but Dante Jackson's on a one, or corner and wide receiver would flip, but Dante Jackson's on a 1-year deal. So you got to get somebody there. And if Cooper DeJean's not going to work out his pro day today, he's going to fall down the board. And I think the Steelers love Cooper DeJean. I think he's just you could just plug him anywhere. You need a safety in a year. Cool. You need a nickel in a year. Cool. Kool-Aid McKinstry would be my other one. Those are like the two guys that just make so much sense for the Steelers. Hard-nosed, physical football players. And, I mean, Kool-Aid McKinstry next to Joey Porter Jr. would be the lengthiest, scariest cornerback room you could put. But I would say that's their priority list. Again, it all depends on how they fall. I could see them avoiding a center if Zach Frazier and JPJ go way earlier than expected. And then you readjust. But if everything falls as planned, my guess would be Zach Frazier's their center. Maybe their backup center, but their center in 2024. That would be my guess. We'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens. That I mean, just it seems like, at least from my view, I don't know. I feel like they're hunting for a starting center. So like
Yes.
they've got to get one either way, and I feel like it's more. I don't know. I'd feel better about getting a starting center through free agency, getting a veteran there, and that.
Yeah, I agree. I think that they sign a center. I think that they have a starting center. I think that their draft pick is a backup center for 1 year, and then they see what happens there. But there's only two available, Connor Williams and Brian Allen. Brian Allen's a mess, and Connor Williams is coming off an ACL surgery. So I think they're both 1 year prove-it deals. Cool, works out awesome. If not, who knows, Or it's going to be Nate Herbig, which is just don't do that. Don't do that to yourself if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers. All right. With that said, we're heading out here. Thank you guys so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. Make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/All Steelers Talk. Check us out anywhere you get your podcast. Remember to go hit the link in the pinned comment below. And if you're listening through audio, go to YouTube, hit the link in the pinned comment below. Subscribe to our new Clips YouTube channel to enter for a chance to win a Mean Joe Green jersey on top of a couple other giveaways once we hit 1,000 subscribers. I will be back tomorrow. Enjoy another beautiful day in the Berg. Peace.